Alright, today we're going to look into how to model a 3D head based on the reference images of a famous actor. In this case, I chose Robert Downey Jr. So, unfortunately, when you're going to do a project like this, you can't really find the proper reference images to create a perfect 3D model of this character. So I'm going to take a couple of liberties. The head's going to be based on reference that I found online of his face, and the body is going to be based on reference images that of a body that I think resembles his body. Before I begin explaining the techniques on how you go about creating a 3D head with proper topology, we need to go into the process of setting up our images to have our image planes in Maya for the modeling process. So I'm going to go into an image editing software such as Photoshop. I'm going to open up pictures that I found online for reference, and again I want to find let's see, Philadelphia University. Alright, and now again I went online and I found a picture of him kind of looking straight at us, alright, and then one of a profile of his face. Again, if you can find more reference for him, that's great, but all we need is something like this to start. So I'm going to start by selecting his headshot. Alright, one of the things that you need to keep in mind here, and again this one's kinda, I already flipped this one, but we're only going to be concentrated on half of the face, and I usually work on the left side. So when you came to this picture, I actually flipped it. Alright, I went to image, rotate, and flip canvas horizontally. So I wanted to concentrate on this side of the face because it's better defined than the other one. Okay, I'm also gonna the next step that I need to do is actually match the proportions of this face with the profile one to make sure that when I bring it into Maya, my references are matching. So I'm gonna go into my canvas size. I'm gonna make my width about twice of my width, about twice of what it is originally. Alright, I want to take this image and just move it a little bit here to the left. I'm gonna go into File, Place, and bring in this image. Alright. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind is that these images have kind of already been treated a little bit. So this is going to match, like for, I'm going to use my rulers here in After Effects to actually set a couple of lines here. And I just need to make sure that these, the proportions of this face are matching with what's going on here. So, as you can see, and there is going to be a little bit of a of things that are not going to match, but what's going to end up happening is that we're going to have to again make it as match as best as we can, and then we're just going to have to kind of settle on one and use one as our main reference, and then the other one just as a complement of it. But again, for the most part, this is matching. And again, I'm just kind of drawing a couple of lines just based on the features that I want to match, such as the jaw, the eye line, the eyebrows, the height, or what I assume the height is, because you kind of have to envision that there's a bald head here. The mouth. Alright, so again, there's a little bit of an inconsistency here on the nose, but I think this is something that I can work with. You know, you may also want to match the ears, but I think this is working really well as it is. So again, you can keep these lines and save this as a Photoshop file just so you can edit this image later. But the next step will be to saving these images as a square. Again, it's a lot easier to set up in Maya if I have an image that's the same size, the same width as it has the same height. So I'm gonna go into canvas size again. I want this to be 10 by 10. Okay, and this is, again, by changing the canvas size, you're not really clipping the image. So I can select them both. Again, I can just center this one. Then we'll do a save as, and I'm going to save mine as a PNG. You can save yours as whatever you want. So that will be the front, and then I will move my image so I can set up the profile. And then again, I will do a save as, change it to whatever format compression, and then save that. So once we have our images, again, I'm going to start from scratch here in my Maya file. Just going to go to new. Alright, we're going to set up image plane so we can start the modeling process. Now, the size of the head at this point is not important. You know, the size, the head can be as big or as small as we want it to be at this point. We'll be doing the resizing as soon as we start working on the body. But for now, I only want to focus on the head. Again, I'm going to be focusing on the head and the body separately. Okay? So, again, we're going to set up a front viewport here. So I'm going to go to my orthographic front, or you can use your hotbox shortcuts as well. By select camera here, I'm going to go into my attributes. And then I want to go into environment, image plane, create. Alright, and that's going to be my image plane right there. And in the image plane shape 1, I want to go into image name here, click on the folder, and bring in the images. So let me just find the location for mine. Alright, and this is going to be the front. Alright, so again, it looks like it's a little tiny, so I'm going to have to make it a little bigger. So I'm going to go here to the placement extras. And right here under image center, I'm just going to increase the size of the width and height. And again, right now it's kind of keeping the aspect ratio. So if I make a change to this one, it's going to change it to the height. Another thing that I want to do is kind of bring this up, so it's kind of resting at 0. Alright, and I possibly want to make sure that this is actually running through the middle here as well. Again, I'm just kind of eyeballing that. I could also, again, just to make sure that it's snapping right at the center, make sure that I'm using my snap tools over here. Alright, so now it's right there in the middle. But again, another thing to keep in mind here is that the center of the image is not necessarily the center of our character. So if you want this to run right through the middle, because again, at some point we're probably going to have to use the grid to snap some of our vertices so it mirrors correctly. Probably going to have to eyeball that a little bit. See, just going to change the size of my image here a little bit. And this is something that I could actually set up here on my reference images as well. So again, if I have a specific kind of center in mind for my character, what I can do, again, I'm just going to draw the guide here. And this is why it's a good idea not to get rid of like your original Photoshop files, but just save it so you can just go back and make edits. So I can have a line right here in the middle. I can use line tool, and I can just kind of draw it here. Alright, and I can save that. Just hold on, I'm just going to make the opacity of this a little bit light. 50%. Save as. PNG front. Alright, this is not gonna update automatically, so you can save your file and reopen it again, or just go to your image name and just kind of select the image one more time. Again, we can see that the line is right there. Alright, and sometimes what happens is that it actually resizes back to the original width and height that it had, so you just have to go back and make sure you change it again to what you want it to be. Alright, and now I can make sure that the center of my character is right where it needs to be. Okay, then again, I'm going to go into my orthographic view. I'm going to go to the side. I want to select the camera. I want to go to environment, the image plane, create. And again, this one's a lot larger than what the other one is, but I'm just going to bring the image first and then fix that. Side. Now, I kind of went and I did a little bit of an edit to this image, because on this one the brightness was kind of hiding a little bit of the shape of his nose, so I actually turned it black and white, and I ended up again darkening this so I could see what the shape of his nose is. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this one instead. Alright, and again, it's not in the right position, and it's not where it needs to be, so we're gonna have to make some changes to this. I'm gonna go into placement extras, change the side of it, and just like this one, we need to make sure that it's resting at 0 so it actually matches with what this one's doing. So I'm gonna go into my side left actually. I need to select that image plane and move it. And again, I'm kind of just eyeballing that a little bit. I could also use my snap to grid for this. Alright. And again, we're only going to be focusing on half of the character. Some people like to kind of set up the images here so it's kind of crossing through the front one. I like to have space to work with, so I actually kind of move them a little bit apart. And that doesn't really have much of an effect on how this is going to turn out. Alright, so that's how you set up the image planes. And again, I'm going to go ahead and do a save as. Just call it demo. Alright, so now again the question is, how do you go about starting a 3D head? And the most common way of going about it is again starting from some sort of primitive shape and and then moving your vertices and adding polygons and stuff like that as you go along. But again, the problem with that is that you kind of have to go in there and you have to draw your topology, and you have to fix a lot of things. So I'm going to show you 2 different techniques on how you go about drawing your topology. And again, you can just kind of use the technique of that you're most comfortable with. I'm going to start by going into my front viewport, and again, I probably want to save this one. Then do a save as and start from 1. Alright, at this point I don't really need my grid, so I'm just going to hide that. And I'm going to be focusing on the eyes. Now, the first technique that I'm going to show you is spline based. Alright, so again, the idea is that you draw the shapes that you want to draw, and then through Lofton techniques you can actually create surfaces and then turn them into polygons to add details. So I'm going to go into create, and I'm going to use my Bezier curve tool. Alright, that's the one I'm most comfortable with. So I'm just going to go ahead and go in here and draw in what I need. Again, this is not right, but I can always go back and fix it. Here, draw in. Alright, another thing to keep in mind is that these don't close, so you can't really snap it to here, but you can select your spline, and then again I'm going to change into surfaces, go to edit curves, and you can close your curves. Alright, but again keep in mind that's still open and at the origin point. So that's something that you fix when you're in polygon mode. So I'm just going to go in here and edit the shape a bit. Alright. Now, next thing you can go ahead and do is start drawing some lines that define some of the other detail that we have here. So the eyelid. Alright, and then one that's going to help you define what the eyebrow's doing. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a couple more lines. Again, I'm going to start from here because I want to make sure that the origin point is matching with this one. Again, I can always go back and fix this if I want to. I can just undo it. Alright. So again, they don't close, they don't snap, so I have to go here and open and close curves. So now it's closed. Another thing to keep in mind is that again we're going to be using lofting techniques for this to work. So for the topology to come out the way we want to, we need to make sure that both of these have a similar number of spans, and that they're also evenly kind of divided. So by just selecting it and looking at my attribute, I can see that the spans for this one and this one are different. So this is something that I'm going to have to address. Another thing that you can do in order to make sure that your splines have the same number of spans is basically start from something that you already created. So for instance, this one I can just duplicate, and again you got to keep in mind that the pivot point for these usually start at 0, 0, 0. So I'm just going to go ahead and modify to make sure that my pivot centered to here. Scale it up. Alright, and again then I can just go in here and just kind of modify it to what I need. Okay. So again, the next step is to make sure that they all have a similar number of spans and that they're evenly divided, so it gives us some nice topology. So I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to rebuild my curves, to do this. But because I'm using Bezier, it's not going to allow me to do it. So if I go into rebuild curve, and let's say I want 16 for all of them, and I can apply, it's going to tell me that it can't because they're not NURBS curves. Again, these are Bezier based, so I need to turn them into NURBS curves first. And again, I'm holding shift, right clicking, convert Bezier to NURBS. Alright, and again, if I look at my splines and go into control vertex, we're going to be able to see that they're now based on NURBS. But again, we want them to be kind of evenly separated, and for them to have the same number of spans for this to connect correctly. Otherwise, it's going to give us some weird topology that we're not going to be able to work with. So select them all, apply. Again, it's going to change the shape of this a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And now all of them have 16 spans, and if I go into my control vertex, everything's kind of evenly separated. Alright. And at this point, you can select, again, we're going to be using lofting technique to actually create the surface. So I'm selecting all three. I'm going to go into surfaces and create loft. Alright, So now I have a nice smooth surface that I can actually work with here. But the problem now is that it's only a flat surface. Now what we need to do, now that we have the right shape from the front, we're going to need to start using the side in our perspective to actually move this to where we need to. So it looks like a three-dimensional organic shape, and it matches our side. So I'm gonna select the patch. I mean the nerve surface. I don't need the splines. And again, if you try and move them together, it's gonna give you some problems. So if it's easier for you just to delete the history, so there is no dependency between the surface and the splines, you can do that. Again, all I'm going to do right now is actually make sure that my pivot is centered to the object. Alright, and I'm going to go into my left viewport. I'm going to move it up to somewhere like here. And again, there's going to be a little bit of a difference between the two. It is the same face, but it, the way that it was taking the light, even though I have the profile, I have a little bit of perspective, so it's going to be a little bit different. So again, you have to kind of make a conscious choice of which one's going to be your main reference, and just kind of settle on that and just use the other one to make sure you're getting the right shapes. So again, I'm going to go into the left viewport. I'm going to start kind of turning this a little bit, and I need to start moving around my my span so it matches what's going on the side over here. Another thing that can help with this, and this is something that a lot of modelers do, is that you actually create a sphere to take place of what the eye is supposed to do, and then kind of make sure that you're kind of modeling around it. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a sphere. And again, I don't need this many spans. This many subdivisions. So I'm just going to lower this down a little bit. Back into my left, make sure that it's positioned right. Again, I'm kind of matching what the eye's doing here with what the picture's doing. So then I can again base the shape of my eyelid and of this eye area based on what this eye is doing here. So let's go into the perspective, start moving some of this stuff around. Let's see. And again, there's going to be a little bit of back and forth between the two as far as adjustment. Alright, so now it's just kind of centered there, and I'm going to start moving some of this stuff around. So control vertices. Alright, and I can select a couple here, start moving them back. And again, at this stage, you don't want to deal with a lot of geometry, so perhaps 16 spans was a little bit too much for this. But I'm gonna work with that, and but try and keep it as simple as possible to start with, and then you can add the geometry as you go along. All right, and again, notice it's kind of starting to create a little bit of deformation here, so I need to move this back a bit. Maybe this one I can move up front a bit, like this. So now it's just a process of just, again, moving it in 3D space to make sure it's matching what the profile image is showing us. Okay, and again, we're using this sphere as the basis for our eyes. So again, we just want to make sure that whatever we do here, it's kind of making sure that it's fitting with what the eye is doing as well. Um, if I wanted to, again, because what we have here in our reference, it's or the way that we constructed this was one that pretty much shows what the shape of the eye is, one for the eyelids, and then one that kind of started the eyebrow. We can start moving some of these geometry to kind of start doing some of that. So in order to select the whole ring of vertex in a NURB surface, you right click on it and go to Hull. Alright, and then when you select on the right edge, it selects all the vertices around. Alright, so again, I'm going to be using that Hull to actually move this back, because again, this is supposed to work as our eyelid right here. So Hull, I can select this one, move it back and forth. Alright. So again, we have the beginnings of an eye shape, and I can definitely go back here and kind of change this up a bit. Again, one of the reasons we're seeing this is because these don't connect. So once we turn this into polygons, we're gonna have to seal this up. Before right now, it's actually still open. So again, need to keep that into account, because otherwise that could become a problem later on. So again, I'm gonna bring this forward a bit and keep moving my holes around for a little bit. Alright. Again, having a little bit of space here, again, not a problem, because there's usually this little kind of pink thing that's supposed to go here, so that's fine. We probably want to make sure that it's actually closing on this area over here. So again, perhaps I don't need to select my whole hole, but just part of it to kind of move some of these control vertex there. Maybe only half of it right here. Alright. And again, some of this stuff is not moving. We have to make sure we select it all. Just gotta move it back. Again, we don't need these anymore. Then move it back. And for some reason I have these back selected. Again, if these are going to become a problem, definitely get rid of the history and delete them. I haven't done that yet. But again, just keep in mind when you're creating shapes like these, there's a dependency between the two. So anything that I do to the curves can still affect what the surface is doing. But if you don't want that, just make sure you delete the history. Again, I'm just kind of adjusting here. Now, if it's easier for you to, again, now that you have the right shape and everything's kind of supposed to be in place, but you're still kind of playing around with this, if it's easier for you to kind of work on polygons than it is to kind of move these vertex points around, and again, I'm just trying to select the right hole so I can move some of this back a bit more. Okay. You can turn them in, you can turn this into a polygon. Again, if you feel that you need more geometry in order to get the right shape, if you're in a NURB surface, you can right click and select isoform. And the way this works is that you select a specific edge, and again, I'm selecting this one. So it's kind of making a marker for me to add more geometry in my NURB surface. Again, the whole by itself doesn't do any, I mean the isoform by itself doesn't do anything unless I go into edit curves, edit NURBS, and I insert an isoform. Alright, so now I have more control vertices here to play with if I want to. So again, I could go here into my hole, select that specific hole, and move this forward to give it a little bit more shape. And again, for some reason it's not working. Alright. And again, if the eye is kind of getting on the way, you might want to get in the habit of putting things into layers so you're not selecting them by accident, so they're out of the way. And again, if you want to turn this into a polygon, start messing with this geometry, rather than playing with the vertex, control vertices, select it, go to edit, modify, convert NURB to polygons. Alright. These are usually my settings, so I want to make sure that we have quads. And I usually just like to kind of tell it the polygon count that I want. And again, that's so it kind of stays similar to what I have going on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And that times 3. Let's see. So we need somewhere around 48 polygons. So that's what I want to have there, and I apply it. All right. And again, if you don't want to deal with that NURB surface anymore, you can just get rid of it. Again, the pivot point is usually at 0, 0, 0. So if you want to manipulate that separately, just make sure you modify that and just center the pivot to it. Alright, and again, usually it will try to give us something that's similar. In this case, actually gave us less polygons. Again, not a bad thing, but keep in mind that if you're going to start using this process, these edges are still going to be open, so you need to close that off yourself. Okay, so that's one way of going about it. The other way of going about it is by actually using planes and drawing the topology ourselves. And again, I'm going to be, let's see, going to the front viewport. So I'm going to try and get rid of, not this. Let's get rid of, I want to get rid of the splines that I don't need. Okay, so we got an eye here. And again, I still got to go in there and kind of sew this together. But if you're gonna be using polygons to create the topology, I recommend that you start from a plane and actually start drawing loops based on what you're seeing in your reference images. So again, I'm gonna be using I'm gonna start working on the mouth, and then I'm gonna go into my polygons and I'm gonna create a plane. Usually want to start from some sort of box. Okay. And again, you want to do this in the orthographic viewport. You don't want to begin the process in a perspective, because otherwise it might not work the way you want to. So we're trying to get the right shape here. And again, I'm going to start from around the lips and then move into the lips. So I have my square again, something along the size of this. You don't want to get too large, but you don't want to make it too small, because otherwise the amount of topology that you create is going to be a little bit too crazy. So then I'm going to go to edge. Okay, I'm going to switch back to polygons, close some of this stuff. Then I'm going to hit extrude, Alright, and then I'm going to start moving this topology around so it's kind of matching the main contours of our mouth here. Alright, but I want to do it in a way that starts a loop. So again, I just created an extrusion here and moved it, and rather than going back and forth between extrude and here, I can just click on G for my last command and extrude the next face. Now another thing that you want to keep in mind, it's the divisions. And again, notice that mine has 1 right here, which could potentially mean that I actually have more than one cut here or not. Again, just kind of double checking. Alright, so that's not the case. But make sure you check your divisions before you start extruding, because otherwise you might have extra divisions there that you don't need, and it's going to create some problems. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and start finishing my loop here. I'm going to do G for extrude. Again, it's not doing it anymore, so let's just start from here. Alright, now I want to move it, rotate it, okay, G again for extrusion. Now I find it better for my models if rather than having a V shape here for the mouth, if I actually have a polygon here that's kind of giving me a little bit of an opening here. I find it better for the formation, but again, doesn't mean that the V shape here, which means going from here to here, and that's what's forming the corner of the mouth, it's a bad technique, but I find this to be a little bit more, it works better for me. So G, okay, rotation, move it where I need to move, G again, extrusion, move it around, rotate it, G, move, and let's just rotate it a little bit, and then one last one. Okay, so once we have a loop here, then we can start kind of moving around our vertices a little bit. Again, if you want to get into the habit of start aligning everything that's supposed to be here into your grid, just to make sure that it's centered the way it's supposed to, just select them, click on snap to grid, and then just kind of move it over. Alright, and again, it's gonna be better for your mirror once we get to a point where we're done with one side of the face. Okay, and again, I want to go in here, make sure I turn off my snap, start moving some of this geometry around. Okay, and again, before I start adding more extrusions to this, I want to go into my side viewport and start moving these planes in the 3D space to make sure that it's again, let's just try and change into the side viewport here to make sure it's doing what the profile is showing us. Want to go back here. Okay, as you can see right now, it's just a flat shape. So again, I want to go into the left here. Alright, maybe I'm going to have to turn it a little bit. Alright, and we want to start moving around some of this topology. Again, you probably want to start this process with something that's a little lower poly. This wouldn't be that simple if you have something that's a lot dense than what's going on here. Alright, so something along the lines of that. And again, I probably want to make sure that this is not flat like that, but maybe something along the lines of this. Alright, and I can use this topology to start building the lips on my character, and also building the rest of the mouth over here. So, same thing that I did my first time around. I'm going to go back into my front viewport here. Okay, selecting these edges. Now I don't recommend selecting all the edges and doing the extrusion. Start with a couple first. Okay, let's just say start with the first line over here. Do an extrude. Again, sometimes the move tool right out of the extrude might not do a really good job for us. So if you do extrude and it's doing that, just make sure you switch to your regular move tool like this. Again, pull it out. Then I want to do the same thing here. G for extrusion. Alright, and again, notice that the axis is doing something. I guess you have to look at what is happening in your move settings. So it's doing it based on the local axis, again, which is fine. So extrude, move. Alright, then I'm going to select the ones underneath here. Do the same thing. Extrude, and again, you can move them by the local, or you can change the move tool and just kind of move them down and then adjust them accordingly. Okay. So again, this is what's happening right now. Go to the front. But again, for this to work correctly as a loop, we actually have to connect these vertex to this vertex right here. So I want to make a couple adjustments before I do that. Alright, maybe make this a little bit larger here. Then I'm going to go into my merge vertex tool. Alright, and now we have loops going around the mouth over here. And again, I want to make sure that it's kind of again following what the face is doing. I think for this to work the way it's supposed to, my loops are maybe supposed to get to this point, and then this is a detail that's going to have to be created by other geometry. So I'm actually going to take this and move it forward a bit. Okay, and again, it's just to make sure that I can create this later. Because if I have loops that are extended all the way out here, I'm not going to have to write topology to be able to create this detail. Alright, and I can always kind of go in here and kind of move some of this stuff around. Again, go into my perspective, see what's going on here. Left viewport, forward to kind of see through it. And again, we can see that, you know, this is not really following the shape that it's supposed to. So we can take these and move them back. Alright. And again, based on this geometry, now I can start building the lips and also the jaw of my character. So again, it's a matter of going back into my front viewport. Alright, 5. Let's just do the lips real quick. Again, when it comes to character mouths, another thing that I gotta keep in mind is that my self-select is on. I don't want that on right now. You might want to keep them a little bit open. Makes it easier for your texturing process and your rigging process if the lips are actually not touching. So keep that in mind. So again, I want to select these, extrude, probably don't want to use that one, so I'll just change back to my move tool. Alright, go in here, make some adjustments. Now I want to be more concerned about my topology flow than I am about details at this point. Details I can add later when I have to write topology. Right now I'm focused on trying to make sure that I have the right topology on these areas to be able to animate a character later on. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and extrude these faces right here. I'm gonna have to extrude this one first and then connect it here. So let's do that. Just gonna stick to my regular move tool. Okay. Again, I want to switch to my perspective just to see what that's doing. Move it up a bit. Okay. Maybe scale this edge a little bit. And now these two I can just bridge. Again, always want to make sure what the settings of your tool is. So if you have, you don't want to have the extra divisions to create anything that's not a four-sided polygon. When it comes to character modeling, again, usually Angons, it's a no-no because it's going to create weird deformations in our geometry. So we want to make sure that everything that we create, it's either a four-sided polygon, or if you have to, a three-sided polygon that's not in an area that's deforming anything. So again, everything that I'm doing right now, I'm making sure that I have four-sided polygons. So okay, and I'm going to go ahead and weld these, or merge it. Alright, so we have something for the lips here. Probably have to go in here and move some stuff around. Alright, and again, it's very important to study your subject. Again, one thing I gotta keep in mind with this guy is that he's got very thin lip on top of and the bottom one's a little thicker. So again, just gonna try and keep those things in mind, and that's gonna guide my decision making when it comes to knowing what to do next on my model. So again, I'm more concerned right now about having the right topology than I am about creating the detail that actually looks like a mouth here. So I have the topology for the mouth, the loops for it to deform correctly, and I have enough information here to start building more detail. All right, with the mouth now in place, I can start defining the profile of my character. And once I define the profile of my character, I can start connecting some of my geometry and creating my cheekbones. So let's just go ahead and do that. So using the same technique, I'm going to select an edge, stick to this one. I'm going to extrude. And again, I'm going to start defining the profile of my face here. So move up, G, move. Okay. And again, you probably want all these to be a little bit more even, but that's something that I can change once I'm done. Alright, and again, notice that we're starting to define what the shape of the nose is doing here. I can keep going, but right now I'm just going to stop right there, and I'm just going to start defining what the jaw is doing. So let's see, G, move. extrude, and move it, extrude, move it, extrude, move it, extrude, and move it, and extrude and move it. Now, keep in mind that this is creating these this profile based on the curvature of these lines. If it makes you more comfortable, again, just make sure these are flatter before you start actually extruding things out. That way, when you look at the side viewport over here, this will be a flat line rather than having a little bit of dimension to it. Alright, and again, by adding this, we can actually start defining some of the stuff that's going on here. So we can start extruding geometry here to finish our jaw. We can start creating geometry to create our nose and also our eyes. Okay. And again, one of the things that you gotta kind of start considering at this point is whether or not you want to start either increasing the topology on what you created here, or decreasing the topology on what you did originally with your nerves. So again, just for the sake of keeping my model low, I'm actually want to go in here and get rid of some of this stuff. Again, eventually my character is going to be smoothed out, and at this point I'm not really that concerned about details. I just want to make sure that it has the right topology. So I'm going to get rid of some of this topology before I do any connections. Let's see. Alright, and again, it still keeps the same shape, it just doesn't have as much resolution. Alright, and again, before we do any major changes to our character, we should save our file, do a save as, and start from a new one. So if for some reason what we decide to do doesn't work out, we can always go back and from a good starting point. So again, we can start bridging what's going on with the eye right here with the nose, and actually start creating some of the topology here for our bone cheek, our cheekbone, sorry. So I would select this, go to mesh, combine, select both, mesh, combine. Alright, they're one mesh right now, and I can just bridge them. Alright, again, I don't want to add a lot of resolution right here because again, I'm not sure how much I'm going to need or whether or not I'm going to add any. So at this point I just want to start creating some connections between the two. I could probably bridge these two as well. Alright, and as you can see, our face is kind of starting to take some shape. Again, I'm kind of using the preview smoother by pressing 3 just to see what my topology is doing. Notice that I have some issues here. Alright, and again, the reason for that is because there's something wrong there. Either my edges are not connected correctly, my normals are not facing in the right direction. Okay, so it looks like there's something wrong here. So again, I need to address that before I keep moving forward. So there's that. And again, I want to select the mesh again, do a smooth preview, see what's going on. There seems to be more issues here. I just need to figure out what the problem is. That doesn't seem to be the problem. Again, at this point I'm just looking for any openings that that might have been created when I was doing this part. Again, that doesn't seem to be the case here. Perhaps it's a normals issue, so if I want to check my normals, I will go to display, polygons, face normals. And again, we can see that this one's kind of facing in the wrong direction. So again, it's important to maybe address some of these issues before you move forward. That way, the topology that you're going to be based off this face right here is not going to give you any problems. So I select it, go to normals, reverse that. Okay, and again I'm going to subdivide it there. Again, it seems like I have other problems here. And another way to check again what the issue is, because I'm thinking now that the problem that I'm having right here is that even though the vertices are connected, my edges are not. So I'm gonna check off the face normals. I'm going to actually go here. One way to check if these are not connected properly is to actually try and insert some loops in there. So insert edge loop tool. Alright. So again, this one seems to be working fine, but it stops here. So there might be a problem with this polygon right here. So I'm going to do that. This is doing fine. This is doing fine. So it's got to be this one. And again, if the problem is that the edges are not connected correctly, one thing you can do again is just kind of delete that face. Just extrude it one more time. Alright. And you can actually, let's see, we can just merge these vertices to where they're supposed to go. Here. And for here. And again, I'm still having some issues right there. Let's just do another edge loop tool, see what it Okay, it looks like there's a problem here. I'm not sure what the polygon's doing. It's not the normal. The edges are not they don't seem to be connected correctly. I'm just going to try and bridge this one more time. See if that does anything. That could be, I could have the same problem with this one, so I'm just going to go ahead and bridge it again. And I'm still having issues. Alright, so there's obviously something going on here that I need to address. But again, for the sake of the demonstration, I'm just going to keep moving forward. And I'm going to start connecting some of the cheekbones right here. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on here. I'm pretty sure that the edges are not connected correctly, but I'm not going to kind of work on that right now. So, the cheekbones. There's a couple of things that need to happen here in order for this to work correctly. There needs to be at least maybe another loop here, or maybe we need to have a loop that defines what this is doing right here. But then another thing that we can start, again, we need to kind of start defining what's going on over here. So, just to give you an idea of how you're supposed to go about that, I'm just going to select these two edges right here, bridge them. Alright, and again, that's just a flat plane. I advise that you start from a flat plane like this and then just go and add resolution as you need. So I can connect components here and have one more going to my side viewport. Alright, maybe I need to move it up a little bit, like this. And again, these faces are just way too big for what's supposed to be happening here, so I can actually maybe bevel this a bit. do an offset of 0.3. Okay, and again, by bridging these edges, then you can start kind of creating some of the detail that's supposed to happen right here. And maybe now that we have this, we can maybe use some of this topology to start drawing in detail that's supposed to go from here down to the top of our nose. And again, it just means that we're going to have to have more resolution, but at this point I'm more concerned about having the right flow topology than adding detail. So again, we're starting to see that our face is taking shape. Alright, so we were able to build the loops around the mouth. We were able to build the contour of our head by extruding off of it, and then start connecting based on the main topology that we created for the eyes and around the mouth. So let me just start from a different file. Okay, this one's kind of too far ahead, but let's see. Okay, again, on this one you can tell that I went in here and I started bridging the details between my mouth and my eyes and created my cheekbones, just like I did on the last example. And based on the geometry that I had here, I started building the forehead. Alright, now, and another thing that we did on our previous file is that we actually model the jawline a little bit, right? So the next step that I ended up doing is actually taking the edge from here, started building the side of my head like so. Alright, now what this allows you to do is that now that you have the detail of your mouth, your eyes, and your forehead here, it actually allows you to start connecting what's going on here and finishing the shape of your face. Alright, so again, in this example, again, if I wanted to finish something like this, and again, I need to make, I had to go in here and make a couple decisions. Again, notice that the topology that I got going on here is a little more dense than what's going on here. So I either had to increase the topology here or decrease the topology here to make sure that things were fitting. Let's see, I have 3 edges here and I have a ton more here. Again, my choices are I can either increase my topology on this side or decrease my topology on this side, and then just kind of commit to that and see what happens. I'm just going to increase actually the topology on this side, and I just kind of bevel that, and again I can use my slide edge tool to just kind of make sure that it's moving on the normal. Alright, so again, I want to start connecting some of this stuff, so I'm going to select these edges, and again, you can either do one by one or select maybe a group and do it like this. So I'm actually going to select a group of edges that I want to weld together. I want to just do 2. Again, this is just an example, and then I would bridge them. Okay, and again, I don't want to have a lot of resolution here, unless I exactly know how much I need, because then again, one of the things that's going to end up happening here is I'm going to have a triangle right here, and I can either deal with the fact that I have a triangle right there, or leave this as it is so I can just have a 4-sided polygon. I think I'm going to need the extra resolution here to shape this right, so I'm actually going to go in here and maybe let's just connect it once. Again, select those edges, move them out a bit so it's rounded. Okay, and now that we have this, I can go in here and just bridge these 2, and I can select this edge and just kind of fill the gap, fill a hole. Alright, But that's one approach that I can take. But again, this is what my triangle is doing right here. It's doing a little bit of a lump there. So one of the things that I need to figure out is how I can go about creating either more topology here so I can have another four-sided polygon, or how I can get rid of this triangle. Again, in this case, I got a couple options. Again, I can add more geometry. So what I can do is actually create another loop here and close this off, and that most likely is going to take care of my problem. So let's just do that. Okay, so I'm just going to connect these. Then I'm going to use my interactive split tool. Select that, and then just remove it. Alright, and now I have a four-sided polygon where I had a triangle. So and now that I look, and again, I'm still gonna have a little bit of a weirdness over there. Just means I have to maybe move my polygons a little bit. Again, it's already looking better. Okay, but again, the idea is either whether or not you want to commit to having a triangle. Again, if I look at my model, there's a couple areas where I kind of already had to have a couple ones. I think like right here, and again, one of the reasons I have that right there is so I can add a little bit of kind of definition there. But it's in an area that it's not. It's supposed to create. It's a kind of like a hidden area. It's not really creating anything that's in the main surface of the face. So that's something that you can kind of deal with. Alright, so again, we were at this point right here, and again, this has a little more resolution here. I mean, more detail than what my previous model had. But I ended up defining what the jaw was. Then I took this polygon right here and I started creating the side of the face based on what my front viewport was showing. I went all the way around. I finished what the forehead was doing, and then I started bridging and connecting. Alright, and again, at this point you need to make a couple of decisions about how you want to go about it, about how you want to deal with triangles. Again, you want to have four-sided polygons as much as possible. Triangles, again, only if you need to, but keep them to a minimum. And five-sided polygons, don't ever have five-sided polygons because they're going to be troublesome. Let's just move on to a later model here. See what's going on. Alright, so again, this is a good example of what you kind of end up once you have the side of the face kind of finished, then you need to kind of go about defining what the back of the head is doing and the neck. And this, again, same process. You make a decision about how you want to deal with your topology. Either you match what's going on here with the other side, or you decrease what's going on this side to match what's going on here. Now, the problem is that we have a lot of detail going on here, and the topology seems it's flowing correctly. We have nice looking loops. I don't want to sacrifice any more topology that I need to. So I'm basically going to make sure that whatever's going on here matches what's going on here instead. And again, same process. I'm just gonna do the neck over here. Actually, you can kind of bridge these two like this. All right, and now you have that, which is just a flat polygon. Then you connect here. Connect components. Then you're gonna use this edge to kind of define the shape of the neck. So I'm gonna go into the front viewport and move this out. Alright, and again, it's gonna kind of follow this line over here. And again, for right now, I just want to add as much geometry as I need, because one of the things that's going to end up happening is that we're going to start connecting with what's going on the head, and then some of the decisions that we made here are going to have to change. For now, again, I'm just going to go ahead and do a bevel. Alright, And if I'm looking at the topology of my neck here, if I want this to flow correctly, I'll probably have to add another division here somewhere. So I'm just going to select these two and connect that. And this topology I can close by either extruding this from the side and then welding the vertices. I can bridge them and then do a connect here in the middle and weld these. So again, allow me to demonstrate. And we're gonna do its bridge. Alright, then we want to just connect the components here, move it back, alright, and then I'm gonna use my vertex here to merge vertex tool. Alright, and again, we want to go back between our polygon mode and our smooth mode just to make sure that everything's connecting correctly. Alright, and again, this is the part of the neck that I created. So again, you need to go and define what the back of the head's going to do. Start connecting the front with the back and start making sure that it's forming the back of the head of the character. Let's see, let's just move on to the next version of this model. Alright, and once you have everything connected, then it's when you start working on the details. And again, notice that I already went in here and added some more geometry here to start creating some of those details. So for the lips, you want to create something sharp, you just have to add another edge loop right here. And it creates the sharpness that you're seeing over here. Same with this part right here. Again, the closer our edges are, the more definition you can make. What else? And again, notice another thing that's different from the previous models that I had here is that my topology here is a little bit different. I actually had to go back and redraw this right here, because this line's supposed to start from the top of this area of the nostril, and you actually had it down here. So I believe my last model will show that. Alright, so again, you have to not only have the right topology for this to deformate correctly, as you can see here with the mouth and the eyes, but you also need to create topology flow that is actually going to be able to create the details that the face needs. So I have the loops that are going around the mouth, and I also have a geometry that spans from the top of the nostrils here down the side of the face, so I can create this. Alright, so this concludes this lecture. And again, notice that we're not including the ears on this. The ears is it's kind of complex, so we're gonna treat that separately and then add it to our head. So that's gonna be on the next lecture.